Today's daf is daf Chav Tes. Amar Rabbi Shimon, the Gemara asks Akasha, why does Rabbi Shimon hold that they need chalitza? In the Mishnah, he says, Shtei achios, two sisters that fell for Yibum, lo choltzos, v'lo misyabmos. So it means that the Iser of achos kukaso completely undermines and liquidates the Zika. And achos kukaso, therefore, if it's mafkia the Zika completely from Yibum, is therefore lo choltzos v'lo misyabmos. They don't even have, there's no Zika for Yibum. So in the case of an Iser mitzvah, which we said was Shnias Larayas, or Iser Kedusha, which is a Lav Doraisa, they are Zkukos Liyibum. So they have the same din as any Shtei Achios that fall for Yibum and became Tsaros one to the other. And according to Rav Shimon, they're Pturos even from Chalitza. Why is it here that Rabbi Shimon says they're Chayav in Chalitza? And the Gemara answers that the reason why there's Kukos the Chalitza is Gzeira Mishum Iser Mitzvah di Alma. If we're going to patter up them from Chalitza, the spectator, the onlooker is going to think that the reason why they don't need Chalitza is not because of the Ptur of Shtei Achios, but rather because Iser Mitzvah has the same din as Erva. And an Iser Erva is pater from Chalitza, therefore Iser Mitzvah is pater from Chalitza. All this in the mind of the spectator. They're going to come to pater up an Iser Mitzvah in general from Chalitza, even in the case where they're not two Achos. Hence, they made Gzeira that in all Isurei Mitzvah, we're going to require Chalitza. So the Gemara asks, Tenach, I can understand you Mechayiv Chalitza because of this Gzeira. Ihi, that's the Yevamot who is prohibited in Iser Mitzvah. So they shouldn't come to the conclusion that an Iser Mitzvah is part of Chalitza. But Achotza, she doesn't have an Iser Mitzvah. Why does she need Chalitza? She should be pure Chalitza, like any case of Achos Kukaso. And the Gemara answers, Gzeira Achosa Mishum Lasa Dida. That if we'll be matir her without Chalitza, then they're going to come to be matir even Achosa and the Iser Mitzvah. They're going to allow her to get married lashuk without any chalitza, and then they're going to be matir every Iser Mitzvah lashuk without chalitza. So the Gemara raises the following objection: Pagabi erva. What about a case where you have one of them is asur la bisur erva, and the din is that he's asur ba, but he could be biyabim hasista. And the erva self goes out to l'shuk. She can marry anyone she wants below chalitza. For example, Reuven marries Rachel, and Rachel, is an erva to Levi. And Shimon marries Leah. Reuven and Shimon both die, and their wives fall for Yibum to Levi. And Rachel goes out without chalitza and Yibum, because she is an erva to Levi. We don't say that Rachel requires chalitza there because they might come to be matir even Leah, her sister, without chalitza. So why is it in the case of an achos of an Iser Mitzvah, even though she's an erva according to Rav Shimon because of the din of Shtei Achios and she's muteres l'chshuk, you made a gzeira that she should require chalitza because of her sister, otu achotza. So the Gemara answers, Shani erva, the big inchi. Everybody knows, it's public knowledge about the Iser erva, and they know that erva is ptura min ayib min chalitza. She's yotzeis b'li chalitza ve'kola isle, and therefore the achos doesn't need. Nobody's going to be matir her without chalitza because she's not achos kukasim, because the erva herself doesn't fall for Yibum. But in the case of achos of an Iser Mitzvah, if we're going to be matir her l'shuk without chalitza, as Rabbi Shimon would claim, and that's because they become tzar zu lezu. We should be suspicious. We should have this chashash that because of that, they'll come to matir, even achosa, she iser mitzvah below chalitza without giving her chalitza, without requiring chalitza. So therefore, we have a chashash that somebody else who doesn't know the din of Rabbi Shimon, he'll see that they didn't give chalitza to the iser mitzvah. He doesn't understand that that's because of the view of Rabbi Shimon that achos kukaso is an iser doraisa like erva. And he sees this woman going out without chalitza. He's going to make the mistake, and he's going to say, well, you know what? They gave chalitza to her sister. And the Isser Mitzvah, they didn't give chalitza to because she threw him in a B'taras Erva. And they're going to come to Imater and Isser Mitzvah B'alma. And this leads us to the Mishnah here on Daf Chav Tes. Losha Achin. So we have three brothers. Shnayim Emetzu Shtei Achios. So two are married to two sisters, and the third brother is not married at all. One of the brothers who was married to one of the sisters died, and his almon, of course, fell for yibum in front of this third brother who is mufne. He's not married at all. The asaba mufne, and the mufne, it implemented a Maima, a kinyan kiddushin of kesef or shtar. The achakach meis achiv hasheni, and now her almana falls for yibum. So he has two yevamos that are achios, that are sisters, and they both fall for yibum. He was makadesh, one of them, with maimar kesef or shtar. He cannot be miyabim both of them because they're sisters. So let's say Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi are brothers. Rachel and Leah sisters. Ruvain marries Rachel, Shimon marries Leah. Ruvain dies without children, and his wife Rachel falls for Yibum to Levi. Levi does a mimer, then Shimon dies, and now Leah, the wife of Shimon, falls for Yibum to Levi. Beit Shammai Omrim, Ishto imo ve'alaz teitze mishum achos isha. The one that received a maimar is considered like his wife, Ishto. He was kona with a complete kinyan through maimar. That's the shita Beit Shammai, and therefore she'll remain with him, and he doesn't have to divorce her. The other one, we called a Leah, who fell for Yibum from Shimon after Shimon's death. Teitze, she goes completely out of the Zikas Yibum. She can marry anyone, and she's muteres linasi l'shuk without any chalitza Yibum. Why? Mishum shehi achos isha. In other words, since the Maimar, according to Beit Shammai, to Rachel, makes Rachel the wife of Levi, therefore Leah becomes achos isha. And achos isha is an erva who does not fall for yibum, doesn't require neither yibum nor chalitza, just married anyone in the shuk. That's the shita Beit Shammai. Still omrim, both are asuros. In other words, Beis Hillel disagree with Beit Shammai about the fundamental status of Maimer. According to Beis Hillel, Maimer is not Kohen. So he's left with two sisters that fell for yibum. And the halach is the following: Motzi zu ishto beget. As far as the woman, but the wife of Reuven, that's Rachel, who received Maimer, she now needs two things to be mata. Number one, she needs a get to remove the Maimer, ubechalitza, and she needs chalitza to be mata the zikas yibu because the Maimer was not mafkir the zikas yibu. The Ashes Achiv, and now the other brother, is as far as the status of Leah is concerned, bechalitza. So we have now a requirement vis-a-vis the Balas HaMaimar, that's Rachel, of both a get and chalitza, and vis-a-vis Leah, we have a requirement of chalitza. And Zui sha'amru oy lo al ishto oy lo al ishis ach. On this Mishnah, we had a famous statement of Chazal that a person is going to lose both of his wives, and it's not his fault really. And we have to sort of, it's a kina, we're lamenting that he has to be Megarish's wife, and the other woman, that's a Shisachiv, doesn't fall for him. He's left without. So the Gemara is medayik from the lashon of Zohi. It says Zohi, and whenever you see in the Mishnah the word Zo or Zeh, it's a mute, lemute mai. What is it coming to exclude? And the Gemara explains, lemute hachde Rabbi Yoshua. We're going to soon see that two Tanoim disagree, each one with their own flavor, disagree with Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua is recorded in the Mishnah later on in Daf Kuf Tes about a case of a Yavam who loses both wives. What's the case? Reuven and Shimon are brothers. They married Rachel and Leah, who are sisters. Reuven marries the older sister, we'll call her Rachel, and that's Kedushei Torah. Now, Leah, a sister, is a Ketana, and she was married off by her brother or her mother, and that's called Kedushin D'Rabbanan. So Shimon is married to Leah, the sister of Rachel, with Kedushin D'Rabbanan, and Rachel dies, and Reuven dies, and Rachel falls for Yibam to Shimon. Shimon cannot be miyamim her. Why? Because she is the sister of Leah, the Ketana, who's his wife. On the other hand, she can't be p'tur min hayibum under the law, the Erev of Achos Ishto, because as far as the Dorais Halach is concerned, Leah is a Ketana, married off by her brother, and that's not Kedushei Torah. So therefore, Rabbi Yeshua says the following, that Shimon is going to have to divorce his wife Leah, the Ketana, and give Chalitza to Rachel, the wife, the almana of his brother Reuven. And once Levi gives a get, just 1 second, not Levi, I mean Shimon, right? Once Shimon gives a get to Leah, Rachel now becomes what's called achos grushasa. And all this is on a D'Rabbanan level because the marriage to Leah is only D'Rabbanan. But Rachel is now achos grushasa, and there's no possibility, no head to Yibum in that case. Now, if instead he gave Chalitza to Rachel, Tchila, now he has to divorce Leah because she is achos chalutzasa. So according to Rabbi Yeshua, the Yavam loses both wives. He can't marry neither Rachel nor Leah. He's left without a wife. And now the Mishnah wants to say the law of Dinin Kavaseh, the halacha, is not like Rabbi Yeshua, that in Rabbi Yeshua's case, he loses both wives. So we'll see the other alternatives in the Tanoim. And therefore, the Mishnah uses the language Zuhi, L'm'utei de Rabbi Yeshua. So our Mishnah, our scenario is a case where he loses both wives, but not in the scenario of Rabbi Yeshua. Ella, so what do we do in that scenario? What are the shitos and the views of Tanoim that disagree with Rabbi Yeshua? Two possibilities. Ik Rav Gamliel, Ik Rabbi Elias. So let's go through these two shitos. According to Rabbi Gamliel, if the Ketana Leah would be mema'enes in her husband, then Shimon is no longer married to Leah, and he could be miyabim Rachel l'Gedolah. You'll ask me, but at the time of the Nefila, Rachel was achos ishto, and she was an erva, and l'chor the zik is nach. But the answer is that the miyun is mafkia l'mafreya the marriage between Shimon and Leah. Rachel, therefore, is not achos ishto. However, if Leah was not memamenes, then Shimon is going to have to wait until Leah becomes old enough that he can have a full-fledged Ishus Kinyan Gomur, Knuyim in Torah, and it'll be Boel Aleha after she reaches the age of 12. And that's going to be Mafkia, the mitzvah of Yibum from Rachel, because she now is Achos Ishto on a Doraisa level, in Nisa Kares, and therefore she has no Yibum. So it turns out that according to Rav Gamliel, Shimon is not left without any wives. He can continue his relationship with Leah, and he'll create a bia doraisa with a kinyan doraisa of a full-fledged ishus after she becomes a gedola, and that's going to be mafkir the mitzvah of yibum from Rachel, which is very interesting because initially, at the time of the death of Reuven, when Rachel fell for yibum to Shimon, she Rachel was achos ishto. But yet, on the other hand, that's only achos ishto on the Drabbana level. So initially, at the moment of Reuven's death, when Shimon has not yet created a kedusha ishus doraisa with Leah, the status of Rachel is not that of achos ishto. So she really did fall for yibum. There was a zikas yibum. So it's really interesting how, according to Rabbi Gamliel, a situation that arises later on, after Leah becomes a Gdola, and when Shimon is Baal Leah, he's Kona with the Kinyan Doraisa, at that point, Rachel is no longer included in the Zikas Yibum. She can get married without any Chalitza Yibum. Ik Rabbi Eliezer, he says that we should train or guide the Tano Leah that she should be Mama'enes in her husband. That would be Mafkia, the Nesuin Lamafreya. And now Shimon, could be Miyabim Rachel Eshazochet. But in any event, it comes out according to everyone. The Yovam is not losing any more than one wife, but he's allowed and he'll be supplied with one wife, whether it's according to Rav Gamliel, Leah, who's going to be the wife of Shimon, or according to Rabbi Eliezer, Rachel will be the wife of Shimon. But either way, Shimon will be married. Now the Gemara goes back to Beit Shammai, and the Yavam can be kones, he can marry the Balas Hamayim. And the Zika to her sister is Paka. And that's because of the Isra Vachos Isha. Omar Abulaza, Lo Tema Maimar Lebeit Shammai Konekin Gom. Don't assume, don't interpret Beit Shammai as saying that Maimar is the Kinyan Gomur, the Iboila Fuke Sagila Begita, and therefore your conclusion would be that if Shimon wants to terminate his relationship with Rachel, the daughter of his late brother Reuven, all he has to do is give her a get. And that would be a reflection of a Kinyan Gomur. It's not a Kinyan Gomur. And even after he gives a get to the Balas HaMaimar, she will still require Chalitza. So to what extent do Beit Shammai maintain that there is some sort of very powerful Kinyan that is a result of the Maimar? Ela lidchos bitsara belvad. Okay. What that means is that the tzara will not be ma'akev the balas ha'maimar from Yibum. So let's say Reuven, Shimon, and Levi are brothers, Rachel and Leah sisters. Reuven marries Rachel, Shimon marries Leah. Reuven dies. and Rachel falls for Yibum to Levi. Levi did the Maimar, and then Shimon died, and Leah falls for Yibum to Levi. The Zika of Leah, who is married to Shimon, and she is the Ksara of Rachel because of this Zika, that's not going to prevent the Balas HaMaimer, that's Rachel, from having Yibum, from being Misyabemes to Levi. Why? Because the Maimer is Kona Rachel the Yevamot, and later when Leah falls for Yibum, she is Achos Ishto Shel Levi, and therefore she doesn't need Chalitza. So when it says here El Lidchos B'tzara B'lvad, it means that the status of the Tzara, in this case Leah, with the death of Shimon, is that she is completely out of Yibum, out of Zika. And the reason for that is because she's Achos Ishto Shel Levi, because Beit Shammai recognized the Maimer of Levi to Rachel. Omar Rabbi Ovin. So this is all, let's just get the name straight. This is all Rabbi Elazar, correct? Yeah, this is Rabbi Elazar. So again, Rabbi Elazar's point is that even according to Beit Shammai, if at some point Shimon wants to terminate his relationship with Rachel, then Rachel will need, in addition to the get for the Maimar, Chalitza. On the other hand, Beit Shammai do upgrade the status of Maimar to a Kinyan insofar as the Tzara, meaning Leah, is concerned, and Leah goes free without Yibum or Chalitza. So I may have mistakenly said that it was Shimon who did the Maimer. Let's call it Levi who did the Maimer, in case I made that mistake. I mean, Shimon is still alive, and he's married to the sister of Rachel. But Levi did a Maimer with Rachel, and after the death, subsequently, of Shimon, the Zika of Leah, as far as Levi is concerned, is that of a Tzaras Erev. So insofar as Leah is a Tzaras Erva, therefore she does not require Yibum or Chalitza, and she's a Tzaras Erva because of the Maimar that Levi did with Rachel. Rabbi Oven, Afanan Nami Tnina, and Rabbi Oven seeks to bring a proof for Rabbi Elazar's understanding of Beit Shammai from a Mishnah that we had earlier on Daf Chava. So there were two brothers married to two sisters. There were two additional brothers, and with the death of the two brothers who were married to two sisters, those two sisters fall for Yibum to the other two brothers. So each one of these two sisters is a Chos Kukasa. So we have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Rachel and Leah are sisters. Reuven marries Rachel, Shimon marries Leah. Reuven dies, and Rachel falls for Yibum to Levi and Yehuda. Not fall to Shimon because Shimon is married to Leah, Rachel's sister. Now Shimon dies, and Leah falls for Yibum to Levi and Yehuda. Is Beit Shammai Omrim in Lechatchila Lo Bid El Yikaimu? What does it mean, Yikaimu? Yikaimu means B'diem. If each one of the brothers were Miyabim respectively, each one of the Yevamos, the sisters, like Levi was Miyabim Rachel, and Yehuda was Miyabim Leah, is Yekaimu. They're allowed to continue in that marriage relationship, and we're not going to force against. And Rabbi Oven is Medaik in the language of Beit Shammai Yekaimu. That's because the Yevamim, meaning Yehuda, Levi and Yehuda, did not ask for permission from the courts, from Bezdin. They just went ahead and created facts on the ground. They married, respectively, Rachel and Leah. Now they're coming to deal with the question of Legarish es hayevamos. So Beit Shammai were matir the Yevamim to continue their marriage. They don't have to, we're not going to force a divorce. But that's because of the B'diavad situation. But with Atchila, if let's say the two Yevamim want to get married, we're not going to allow them to get married, each one to his sister, because each one vis-a-vis that marriage partner, she is an achos kukasa.